You are listening to TransTOPIA, a podcast series by the creators of my generation.
I'm Fox Fisher. I'm a non-binary trans person of colour. I'm a trans activist and I'm living in the UK.
I'm Al, a trans activist and writer, and I'm originally from Iceland.
In this podcast series, we chat with trans people in the UK and beyond on a wide range of topics. In this episode, we're speaking with Becs Sawyer. She's a trans woman and a spiritual medium. Hey everybody, this is Fox Fisher here and Al in a room, and we're here hanging out with our friend Becs Sawyer, who's popped by on her way to... What are you doing tonight, Becs?
I'm doing a spirit centre. I'm an evening of mediumship at a spirit centre just up the road in Worthing. I popped in Salo on the way past. We haven't caught up for ages, so it's just nice to catch up and a bit of a bitch, a bit of a moan.
Totally. Yeah, it's nice to see your face.
Yeah, put the worlds to right.
Becs, tell us a little bit about what you do.
I define myself as a spiritual medium. And what that simply does, or what I try and share with people, is that our earthly experience is normal, but we're a spirit, we're a soul, consciousness, whatever you want to call it, have an experience in the physical body. And that's normal, and we go through life, and that's normal. At some point, the physical body does die, and the spirit, the soul, leaves the body, and that's normal. But that we live forever is normal. And all I do as a medium is I give a voice or a story to the person that's passed. So I narrate their story. It's not chatting to them because they haven't got a voice box. In effect, it's quieting the chattering mind, it's quieting down my physicality so my own spirit can manifest and I can blend with their spirit and give them a voice. So I just get to know them. It's like whenever you get to meet anyone for the first time, do you like them, do you don't like them, or how do they make you feel? It's that, and it literally is it's a beautiful reunion. And it's just letting people know that, that what was their life like? What was their life shared like? What experience they have? And then it's perhaps more important than anything else, it's a life reunited, letting them know that they're around, that we can't die. And I do it a number of ways. I do charity nights, I do shows, and I do people's homes. But yeah, that's in a nutshell. That's what I do. I give spirit a voice.
So Becs, tell me a little bit about your experiences with being trans and in the media.
Yeah. And I can remember in my teens, it was never mentioned in the press. I mean, the whole thing was gay was the new thing, and
right.
and 20, 30 years ago, all you had was like Dick Emery, or you had the character from Are You Being Served? There was nothing to do with trans, and I can remember once, and I can remember no more than 13, 14, there was a massive headline in the Sunday paper that some anonymous army sergeant was wearing stockings and wanted to change sex.
Right.
It was headline news, and the other major one was Tula. So everything, how far we've come now, I think the exposure or the acceptance has come without a price sometimes, because there's always going to be those that now are getting scared of the trans movement.
Right.
Whereas before we were just that little voice in the corner, we could ignore them.
And this is how we know that we're making progress, right? Because we've got such big opposition.
Yeah,
it's weird.
And the opposition is small, but it's very loud. Whereas within my work, the work that you guys do, I read some of the stuff that you see every day, and it sounds really weird. My pulse rate was up most of the day because I've got a very nice, low resting pulse rate. And for 24 hours, I was like a spring going, and you guys get it every day.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, like, holy, and it was vitriolic, it was awful.
Yeah.
But with my work, I'll get in front of 2 or 10 people, and I make a joke about getting trans, it's the elephant thing in the room, get it out of the way, and then people on your side, and they chat to you about it.
Yeah.
But most people just want to pay their bills.
Yeah.
And if you, as a trans person, they know that you're relatively normal, you're not a threat to the kids, and that you only want to be happy. It's the ones it's the small voice that are causing the big problems.
They seem to be very good at making themselves heard.
Yeah.
And by getting funding, I'm not quite sure where they're getting funding from, but they've done some fundraising, and there's rumours that they're being funded by the Christian right. Which is interesting.
I mean, of course they are. They're their biggest allies. Like the whole thing, the whole spiel that they repeat is the same thing that the religious extremists in the US are doing. It's exactly the same thing, just repackaged slightly and presented in a different way.
What a strange mix of people, to have people who are sometimes lesbians as well,
I know.
And then they've got the far right that have joined it.
And they're very good at creating like false narratives. They're very good at making it seem as if it's women against trans people or feminists against trans people, where it's only a small fraction of women and feminists who are actually against trans people.
So this is an age thing again, because I looked at some things you've been working with or come against them, and I saw some photographs like trans activists or misogynists. So hold on, I thought, hold on. I spent all my life knowing what I wasn't. I spent most of my life being scared, hiding, fear of rejection, fear of ridicule. I go through all my facial surgery, all my gender stuff, to be the person I am. Yeah. I'm sorry, so I hate me. It doesn't make any... and I still can't get my head around it.
Yeah.
And what I find fascinating is, and it's only an anecdotal experience, there was a female-to-male guy that I know really well. The guys go, yeah, come to our club. Yes, you want to be a man. It's great. But it's almost, but it's just, it goes the other way, and you've got that small voice of people going,
But you know, people feel bad enough having to use toilets, let alone the last thing on a trans person's mind is, oh, I'm going to abuse the situation.
I remember the first time I ever used a women's toilet.
Oh, yeah?
And it's about 10, 12 years ago. I was actually with my family, because I'd come out and we were all going away to family together. It was on the M3, at one of the service stations, and I walked, and my mum walked in, and my mum would come to terms by then. I've walked in, and I'm thinking, everyone in the world's looking at me.
Yeah.
I don't know my face, they wouldn't, because but
yeah.
as you say, it's, if a guy just wants to abuse a woman, he won't come out as trying to be a woman, he'll just
abuse women.
Abuse women.
Men abuse women in every single space and every single place they're in. And I can understand why people would be afraid of men abusing women, because it's a reality.
Yeah.
But trans women aren't the same as men. We aren't creating any new avenues for men to abuse women, because they don't need more avenues. They already have all the access to everything they need to do it.
Of course there's going to be abusers. There's abusers everywhere. There's, I ask about my work, you know, are there fakes in my work? Well, there's fakes and frauds everywhere.
Yeah.
But that doesn't detract from the good that people do.
Yeah. Just because there's a bad trans person or there's a bad thing, it doesn't mean you can say that all trans people are bad, because there's bad people in all groups. There's bad people who are black, there's bad people who are Jewish, there's bad cis women, there's bad men, there's bad white people. Like, there's bad in every single group there is. Yeah. So to say, oh, a trans woman abused someone, that must mean all women are abusing.
I mean, if you go by that logic, is that every priest and every vicar should be banned.
I know.
Yeah. It's madness, because it's just, you're generalising for an agenda, really, aren't you?
Yeah. When there's a few bad apples.
With my experience, people just want to get through the day, and what I really find is I'm very open about being trans now. I never thought I would have been, but I am. And once you're open with people, you get the guy who might be a bit sarcastic, or who he doesn't know what to say. Well, you just make a joke with him, and they go. Yeah.
People don't give a shit.
They truly don't. They truly don't. It's like the classic one, well, if you don't bother me, I won't bother you. Yeah, I've got my mortgage to pay. I've got this friend of mine, her son. Well, he's transitioned this week. He's been coming out for a couple of months, had his hair cut short. The school's been amazing. In my day, you know, and obviously I'm old, you couldn't even talk about it, but the world is changing.
Things have shifted so much in the past 5-10 years, you know? It's a completely different world out there in some ways, because we've got more information available to us. Schools are finally getting organisations in to train them on trans issues. From what we've seen, because we film a lot with young people as well, and in cases where there is support either at the school or with the parents, they've just got such a better lease of life.
And parents have changed, because I think young parents have grown up being exposed to them. 10 years, I had my gender surgery 10 years ago. It's 10 years ago. I'm 10 years old next in December. but I didn't even, I was teaching martial arts at that time. I didn't even come out to all the parents. I just carried on doing stuff. Now though, I've got a tiny little club left. I check the mums about it, I show them photographs, they saw me in the magazine, all the kids know. Amazing. And that's just within literally 10 years in my own working experience. So parents come along and they just know me as Becs.
Yeah. But I love that you're a spiritual medium and a karate instructor. That's so badass.
What I find fascinating is that kids don't give a shit. So I did a charity night. Normally I don't let children go into charity. To come to these nights, they're a bit too young. It doesn't bother me. But this one night, there's a girl of 7 or 8 years, and the parents said, because you stayed as a charity, I said, yeah, whatever you want, you're happy. So I started chatting, and my voice is still a bit deep. And she looked at me, and she said in front of like 100 people, she said, I've got to ask you a question. I went, okay. She said, well then, this is exactly what she said. She said, East End girl, you know, well, it was just an Essex, she was an Essex 7 or 8 year old. She went, well then, are you a boy or are you a girl? And I said, well, I used to be a boy, never liked it, tried it for a long time, but I'm now a girl. She went, oh, okay, where's the drink?
See, it's that simple, isn't it?
It was that, it was that simple. Yeah. And I remember when I met my one of my brother-in-law's daughters for the first time, and we was at a family gathering and we were having something to eat, and she was like 5 or 6, and she was looking and she said, why does Aunt Nicky's girlfriend talk like a man? So I used to be a boy. She went, oh, okay. And I said, shall we share our dessert? She went, yeah, you're my friend now. That's it. First thing I met, we shared a dessert and shared extra chocolates, so we became friends. And I think young kids get it. I think it's the pressure that's put on them, and that's why I think I'm such an advocate of young transition.
Because they don't have to go through those years and years of shame and isolation.
Absolutely.
They have such a longer time to be themselves.
And the argument against it makes no sense. They say, well, what if they wear a dress for 3 years and don't want to do it anymore? Well, so what? They've dressed up for 3 years and realise they're not trans, you know. But for every one or two of those, you get 50 that just carry on. Or you see the press going, they love going, they take sex hormones. No, they don't. They might get given puberty blockers at teenagers.
Yeah.
And that's to help the
no
devastation.
Surgeries, no hormones. No. It's just literally a social transition.
Yeah.
And that's
and it just stops that devastation of puberty, especially when you're a young boy and when testosterone kicks in.
Yeah.
It's like a sledgehammer. I'm sure it's the same for girls when they get their hormones. Sure. But for boys, it's so transformational, like structure-wise. It's totally reversible.
And expensive.
Yeah.
And I mean, kids today have been out as themselves from a very young age. Most people come out 4, 5, 6 years old, and they've been for a long time before they get any access to puberty blockers or whatever. So they've been living as themselves for years and years. This isn't something they thought on a whim. They were dressed and I'm like, I want to be a girl. Yeah. Like, it's a consistent, repetitive thing where they tell you consistently who they are, and all we can do is listen to them when they do that.
We've been filming some people recently for Stonewall.
Oh, wow.
This is our third film project with them, and this one's all about helping educational professionals and how to support a trans student. And the third film we did for them was called Living Proof, and it's about the new generation of trans people that are now adults, young adults, that got the blockers at the right time, got the surgery at the time that they needed it, and they are there to tell you, we're young adults, we knew what we wanted then, it worked for us, living
I just hate them. I'm just jealous. I just hate them. Put that on record. But it's a different path, isn't it? But we've got that.
Them, though. We are happy.
Yeah, all right, I'm happy. But I'm really happy. But no, I am, because if they go through without having to have their voice breaking, without having to, I always make a joke if I'm doing some of my work. I mean, I've got no trachea. I'm very lucky. I've got no Adam's apple. And I've got slim ankles. The rest I've got shafted with, really, because I go through so much surgery. You know how much facial surgery I've had and other. But if you can get them at 9 or 10, and then you get them the right therapy or the right support, and then they, at 12, 13, whatever age it is, they take their puberty blockers, so they haven't got all that nightmare.
That's right.
Then at 18, if they're in the right place, they get their surgery, and they've got a normal. Yeah. As far as possible, a normal life in front of them.
As far as possible. I mean, as we were saying before, it's easier. It's not easy.
No, it's going to be challenges.
There's always going to be challenges. Yeah.
I can remember when I had my gender surgery. It's 10 years ago. I was in the States, and I remember I was recovering in the recovery house, and another lady was coming down to have a gender surgery, and it was a husband. They turned like husband and wife and a daughter, and I thought, my God, he's presented as a bloke, and he's got his surgery. He's still got beard growth, and I'm thinking, good, you're brave. Yeah. Because my brain went, no, it wasn't. It was the daughter, and she was 17, 18. I think it was 18. And my trans star, it's pretty good, You could have given me £1 million, and I wouldn't have known. She already been on puberty blockers, I'm guessing. For her, it was a bit of corrective surgery. Yes. It wasn't a long journey. She's like, I've got what I need now, and I go off to college. And like the challenge will be for her when she goes to college or uni, or in America, college, is that she's then got to, when she gets a life partner, she's got to explain that. That's her challenge.
That's right.
Yeah, and I mean, these people will end up having a body that doesn't distress them constantly, and they don't have to go through all these like big physical changes that they don't want, and that gives them such a better lease of life. And people can't make anyone be trans.
No.
You can't encourage someone to be trans, just like you can't encourage someone to be gay. Nobody can make someone trans, and that's one of the biggest things that people keep saying, they're encouraging them to do this. No. What if they change their mind? It's like, nobody can encourage someone to be something and not.
It just doesn't work.
Try making a child be something they're not, and you will soon find that they will aggressively,
okay, son, you wear a dress today. No, I got that. You wear a dress. It doesn't.
Yeah, like try to make a child wear something they don't want to wear. It's not going to work.
Kids play dress up. There's experiment, but there's a big difference between dressing up and experimenting and going, Daddy, I want to be a girl. Mummy, I want to be a girl. I'm a girl. I am a girl. There's a big difference.
That's how you know you've got a trans child, when it's day in, day out.
And it causes them distress, and they obviously feel awful about it, and they show real signs. And I think people who think you can just encourage people have never actually spent time with trans children, and they don't actually know what it's like. There is a fundamental difference between being a trans person and then being gender non-conforming. Even trans kids can be gender non-conforming as well, because gender non-conforming is about expression, whereas being trans is about your identity. There's so many trans children out there that need that support.
I've seen things on Twitter and stuff like that. Letting children transition is abuse. I thought, actually, no, stopping your child committing suicide
is supporting
them. Stopping your child being full of self-hatred and self-loathing, and you carry, even after you transition, you still carry it a little bit, is supportive, not abuse.
Not listening to your child when they tell you that they're trans.
It's like
abuse.
It's like, do you want a happy child that you can love and support, or do you want a child that's depressed and completely ashamed of it?
And I'm going to cover something that hasn't really been spoken about, or I haven't read a lot about it, and it's someone like my mum. And my mum carries tremendous guilt. I was the oldest sibling, and there was my younger brother and my younger sister, grew up in the 60s. My mum was incredibly loving. I love you all so much. I'm always be here for you. Never turn my back on you. And she did. She would come to the park at lunchtime, take us for lunch at the park for a picnic, and I'm going to love you. If you commit murder, I'll tell the police, but I visit you in prison every week. There's nothing I won't do for you unless you're gay. If you're gay, you're at the house. Now, bearing in mind, this is the 1960s where it was still illegal to be gay.
Right.
I think it was 66 it became. So it was still under the carpet, and being gay had this dreadful stigma to it, and all the things that went with it. So I grew up in that world. I didn't come out in my 20s as trans, but I'd wind my mum up sometimes. She would have the family dinners. Oh, love's unconditional. No, that's not. So what then happened was, when it came out, I won't tell it, it was a boring story. I got outed by my mum's hairdresser in front of my mum, and it's a long story, but it wasn't bad. It was just. But my mum became my biggest advocate. My mum was out there when I had my gender surgery. She's never got a pronoun on. She's a big support. But the guilt she carries, because she knows now. She said, "Oh, you're always different. Didn't know why. We used to worry about you didn't fit in. You were always bullied, and we didn't know what was going on." So had my mum known, had it been today in 2018, and I'd been 5 or 6, she'd have been able to express love. So. It affects people. It's not just us. It affects. My mum's been affected. My sister's been affected.
Yeah. And you turned out gay and trans.
I turned out gay and trans. She's completely fucked, isn't she? Really. But the first thing my mum said to me when it all came, she was, "Oh, you and Nikki okay?" I went, "Yeah, better than ever."
That's great.
Because Nikki and I have been together 17 years now.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I just wonder about these people today who are so aggressively against it. Are they gonna one day realise what they've done?
There's still homophobes out there, even though much of the world has got to grips with the fact that gay people are not pedophiles or perverts or whatever it is that they say that gay people are now trans people as well.
I guess the power of denial is...
Yeah, there's a movable middle. There's a group that, we've seen it ourselves, the light bulb moment that people have when they're like, "Oh, you're just human. Oh, okay." And that's really valuable, and there'll be a lot of that, I think. But,
and what I like as well, for go back to is with all my social media stuff, everyone's always using, even when I see someone's put a post up about me, or they've mentioned something I'm doing, it's always she.
Yeah.
And I love that. It is so respectful. And, sometimes people will say question, and if I've put an event up, and it's because sometimes people post on them and not realising you can read their comments, and someone replies, "Oh, is that he or she does the work, the shows?" And this woman, "No, Becs is a woman."
Good.
And you go, "Yeah." Again, the world is changing. I think a lot of people who are homophobic or transphobic, that's their upbringing. So this friend of mine's son, Jamie, who's transition, he's got his friends at school. The school's supportive. I mean, it's almost like, okay, yeah, transition, okay, yeah, nothing famous. I mean, 10 years ago, Nick and I were on TV with This Morning because we were staying together. That's not even newsworthy. That wouldn't get a bit in the local paper anymore.
And that's where we're heading, isn't it? That's what we're hoping for.
Yeah.
Even the films that we make, the My Generation stuff, which there's a film about Becs, if you want to check it out, we'll put it in the link. With those films, they're so simple, and yet we hope in the future people will look at those films and go, "So what?"
Yeah, and? Yeah. So a gay couple get married, and that's nice, and it's like...
That's why we try and feature people that have more than just being trans going for them.
Yeah.
So,
and that's why I think that's why the far right or the far Christian are so scared because it questions their agenda. It undermines their power. It undermines their, they're cherry picking bits from the Bible anyway. Don't start me on that one. Just cherry picking bits of the Bible to make it fit their agenda.
Yeah. And what are we doing essentially? We're lifting the lid on gender. We're going, okay, well, what is this? Is it a construct? Is it inbuilt?
What annoys me the most about this discussion about gender and sex and people saying, well, people are male and female, and they speak about biological classification as it's this holy truth that was created by God and wasn't created by anyone, but it was created by men, by the patriarchy, and it has caused the division of people into men and women and caused inequality in society.
That's right.
So they can't just say that biology is just this fundamental thing that cannot be changed and isn't subject to norms and values, because it is. It's created by people in a certain time, in a certain context, and you cannot say that these categories are just that.
And they're basing it on what science says today.
Yeah.
Science 50 years ago, or 80 years ago, didn't have DNA.
Yeah.
So it's, well, you've got a penis, you've got a vagina, we'll just do it that way. Now, so we take it a stage further. And I had this discussion with someone who didn't quite get my point, but if we take it based on biology right now, so but all my feelings are female, they've always been that way. Well, where's that come? That's still biology. There's something chemically happening in my brain to give me those things. Yeah. So it's not, it's an emotion. Well, okay, where's that come from?
Yeah.
So where's that physiological response for me knowing that my body or my outside, I always call it like a car, my car was wrong, but the driver inside knows I'm female.
And it's a mix of neurology, it's a mix of environment, it's a mix of everything. So you cannot just say, this is biology, this is a social thing, because they all intertwine. Yeah. We are a product of biology, neurology, and the social around it.
Any of you, I'm sure you're aware, if you go back to Native Americans, in fact, go back to any ancient civilization,
indigenous culture,
they always had space for gender diversity. Yeah. They had androgynous divine.
Yeah.
If you look at some of the ancient Hindu, there's an ancient Hindu, I can't remember the name, but it's an androgynous god.
Yeah.
It was always embraced. It's only with like the monolithic religions where they're very patriarchal.
Yeah. And look at us as colonialistic UK, going to all these other countries and going, look, it's men and women and it's Christianity, that's all it is. These countries are often, the ones that we've colonised, are often the most
extreme.
Yeah.
Biology has been used to oppress women in particular for a millennia. And they just continue to enforce it themselves. And it's like, well, we have to be able to look past both gender classification and biological classification, because biology is nothing without society. Biology is nothing without our understanding of that particular issue.
And I think we lose the question of the fundamental question is: are you happy?
And are these people happy though? Are upset about trans people and spending all their time?
And again, I'm very, I share with you is that I'm not exposed to what you guys get exposed to every day. But I had a little dab into it the other day. I ended up feeling ill. I went, what are people on? Where's that hatred coming? I saw a couple of things on post, but I just thought, good grief, it's like...
I know.
The level of energy spent on this is
insane.
Incredible,
I think that we are still making progress, and we've got this, at the time of speaking now, we've got about a week left until this, the government's done a call out for information from people for something called the GRA, which is the Gender Recognition Act, which was created in 2004, and it's time for a kind of an update on it, but there's a huge resistance to it by a very small minority of transphobic people who put out an ad in the Metro a couple of days ago.
Yeah, I saw that whole page advert.
Can you imagine, if this money, there's been speculation about how much money they exactly spent on it.
Somewhere between 10,000 and 45,000 for this one pager.
Can you imagine what this money would have done for women's services, such as rape crisis centres or shelters or any human rights organisation fighting for human rights? It would have made such a massive difference.
But they don't see that.
I think people are starting to see that we really are the underdogs, and we're doing everything we can despite having to deal with our own personal issues with transition, and then having to educate everyone around us on trans issues.
Yeah, and we have to be experts on biology, gender studies, neurology. Like, we have to be experts on literally everything, and people just expect us to have the answers to everything, but aren't able to tell you why gender and sex is the way it is today in society, because no one can.
But we're doing great stuff on a budget of nothing. I'm really proud of our community on a whole, generally.
I come almost of a quiet activist. I chat to people in front of me in an audience. I go, I make my little jokes and little nuances but I've had people come up to me saying, "Can I have a chat with you after the show?" Yeah, what about my son's just come out as trans? I don't. Boom.
Amazing.
And because they come talk to a stranger, so I'm doing something. Again, we were saying earlier on, it's come so far.
Yeah. We were saying earlier about our builder coming round, and we didn't come out to him at all, and then he ended up looking at my website, realised I was trans, and then he mentions it to you, Al, and said he had a trans niece.
Yeah, and we just had a conversation about trans people, and there was another guy with him, and they kind of said, without me prompting them, that the media usually just tells you one version of the story.
Amazing.
And that, you only hear certain types of stories in the media, and even these people who are not really exposed to trans people realize that the media is completely skewed and gives people a skewed view of groups of people.
They kind of read between the lines because they have to and don't believe everything.
And they don't really know what's going on in the media with like the whole sort of vitriol hatred that's going on. They're just going about their lives and they don't care about some stupid article in the Times. They just don't care. And I think the majority of people are just indifferent and don't actually care, aren't following this debate because it's gone to such extremes and people are just bored.
Yeah, exactly. They want to pay their mortgage, and I remember when I first came out, and I was really concerned. Someone said to me, "It'll be like old newspapers that get you sufficient chips next morning. The world will keep on turning, and people will forget about you. You'll just be something I won't worry about." If someone said to me 15 years ago, I was just going to be me and get on with it, I'd have gone to the wall never, because I'm sure people look at me and go, "Well, is that trans?" Well, it is what it is. I'm on a train, and just get on with it. But I think people are just going, whatever.
Yeah, that's what we want. That's the ultimate goal. Whatever, don't care.
Yeah, it's like a gay couple. There are all those who will always be, insulted by a gay couple holding hands as they walk down the street.
Yeah, because of our, our culture. Programming.
And there'll always be those that will get, insulted by a trans person. It's that divide and conquer, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I was always very spiritual, and I went, well, if I'm this spiritual, I should be happy being a 6'2" bodybuilder. I can handle being a man. I can handle big muscle. I can handle a penis, but I got more suicidal.
Yeah.
And the way it was given to me, not by the medicine, but the way I've rationalised it is, I always say to people, imagine your body being like a car. Yeah. The driver of the car is your spirit. When the car goes to scrappy, it gets laid to rest. You get out. You always be okay.
Yeah.
But imagine you get given a car, and it's a left-hand drive, manual, that you can only drive in reverse. Yeah, exactly. You get through life, but God, it's shit.
It's shit. And you might crash.
And you get frustrated, you have a crash, and you think, oh, fuck this car.
Yeah.
Bollocks to this.
That's right.
But that's that's the analogy. But then suddenly you go, actually, okay, what we can do for you, sir, madam, we can put the steering wheel on the other side, give you an automatic gift, and let you go just forward. It may not be the perfect car that you would have liked.
You can't get a new car, but...
You got it, but we can make this car... Oh, wow, this is what life can be like.
I've never felt like this before.
There you go.
That's it.
And that's my metaphor, my analogy that I always use with people.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Because it is that, I just imagine getting a left-hand drive car, and it's a manual stick, and you've got to drive backwards in reverse and drive down the motorway, and you're going like, oh, I can't do this.
Yeah, it's hard.
You can survive.
Yeah,
exactly. You can get through it.
Yeah.
But suddenly someone shows you a different way of being, making that car more comfortable for this experience. Yeah. If everyone was having to drive in reverse, if everyone was in the same boat, that would be different, because you're as messed up as each other.
I love it. It really works.
You can own that. You can have that one.
Thank you. Cool. All right. Well, we'll say goodbye. If you want to check out Becs' stuff,
you can find my Facebook page on Becs BECS UK, or you can find me on becs-medium.co.uk.
Thanks, Becs.
Oh, thank you guys. Been awesome.
Thank you.
TransTOPIA is part of My Generation, an ongoing project focusing on trans lives and trans experiences.
If you like our content, then please consider going over to our Patreon and donate to support the work that we do. You can also donate a one-off payment to our PayPal.